Hello, I am Brandi Taylor, founder of Fear It Goes, and I have one question for you today. What's it worth to save that relationship with your spouse? What's it worth to you to have the incredible opportunities with your staff? What's it worth to you to grow your business from almost failure to absolute success? What's it worth for you to find the love in your life? What is it worth to you to make the investment in yourself? Do you stand for you today, or do you take the back seat? That's the question. What's it worth? Check us out at feargoes.com/align now method.
So then I hear you. So we're referring to opportunity and the perspective of that, and what I had asked you about, which was I'm finding that my big leaps forward. This is literally just something that, because I had another podcast with someone, and they described a process that I realized that I experience, right? And it's the sudden and unexpected that changes everything.
The unfamiliar.
Is it unfamiliar?
Yeah. So think our minds are always working from the space of familiar to unfamiliar. This is what makes the comfort zone, the familiar, the natural state of being for us. Now, that said, it's a very, very primitive system, right? We've talked about this before. But the familiar is what you always lean back into, because it's how we stay safe. It's how we've evolved. It's what we've known forever in our existence. So when you move into something that's big change and very sudden, it's really hard from a mental standpoint, unless you've done some training or enough to recognize there's opportunity in this and shift your perspective. That's why I said, I really do believe this is about opportunity and perspective as much as it's about change. Those things all tie in together.
And, maybe that does play into, how I operate. I'll operate on not necessarily a to-do list, but an action list, right? And when you live on an action list, your tolerance for risk goes really high up, because you're in action mode. And I find that a lot of times action puts me in spots that have created change that is outside of my control, right? Or not out of my control, but it's the change is going nuclear, right? It's just like it's starting to react, and then that's where this sort of flash moment. I'm trying to wait for the next one. I'm sort of thinking back now how this sudden and unexpected comes to me, and then it usually is to me it seems like an idea, but I have to spend some time thinking about it, because I think it's more, there's some physiology involved. I know that when I listen to it's either Brian Tracy or Jordan Belfort. I don't know if you're familiar with these two gentlemen.
Yep, Brian Tracy is Canadian, and I do believe he's actually Albertan.
Yeah, but it may not be him, but it was Peak Experience, and both of them talk about peak experience, and that's when you get a sale, or you get a big promotion, whatever your win is in your your move forward. You're supposed to mark that peak experience with a smell, a sound, a feel.
Absolutely, anchor it, right?
Yeah,
that's why it's so important
summon that acknowledge. Again. Yeah,
it's so important to acknowledge, because then there's the reference point for the mind, because the mind's always seeking out proof. So if you've done something, it's proof of whatever you're trying to achieve. If you reach for this and you get it, always mark those wins, no matter how big or small they are, because every time you don't do that, it's that reference point for the brain to be able to pull back and go, oh yeah, we've done this before, no problem, we can do this again. Or, oh my God, I don't remember this. I don't. And especially, this is one of those things I was actually just talking about in my newsletter this week, where I was talking about when we pull back and we can't receive something. So when we have a win, right? When we have a win, whatever that win is, and we don't recognize it, we don't celebrate it, we don't acknowledge it, we don't take it in as something important, we devalue it. So does the mind. There's no distinction between right, wrong, truth, false, whatever, when it comes to the subconscious. It just is. So if you are constantly deflating things, the mind just recognizes that as something that's unimportant. And therefore, when it comes to the conscious state, we have what's called the RAS, which is the reticular activating system. And it's kind of like a sorting machine. And I like to think of it very much from the perspective of being in the post office. And when the sorting machines kind of skim through all of the letters and where they're going, right? So your five senses are taking in all this data, but how much you are actually utilizing and recognizing in your conscious state are extremely low numbers in comparison to what's being brought in, because the mind is constantly sorting, going, need that, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that, not important, not important, not important, need that. So all of that information is attached to something that we already have, something that we recognize, proof to something, or something we're striving for. It's always separating what is important to us. So if I'm saying, hey, this big change is, I'm taking action on something and I have a little win. It may not be the perfect win. It may not be everything I wanted in that one win, right? So I've taken action and my goal is here, but I've gotten here. If I don't recognize that, I'm now dismissing it too. It's so important for us to actually acknowledge and facilitate that win inside the mind too. You know what I mean? Recognize it, attach to it, anchor it within ourselves. And it's funny that you said anchoring, because anchoring is really important for many, many things and has great opportunity for us to excel much, much quicker when we can anchor.
But I totally agree. And that is the process of the mind to sort through all your experiences up to the present moment and select the best information, whether it's reaction or data. Our minds are fantastic. It comes in all sorts of stuff. But my great change comes at that time where my action has led me into maybe perhaps it's random or mini anarchy, right? And then maybe my mind, because I'm a change. I'm an agent of change.
Right.
I can't even go to 7-Eleven without affecting the time-space continuum. I'm serious. Sorry, man. I just came for like a Slurpee. I didn't mean to have this conversation.
I love that.
But
yes, you did.
But it's so I take these actions, so that it's strategic, it's tactical, it's creative, it's innovative, but I'm trying to affect the the quantum flux as it crystallizes into the physical reality, right? So I'm pushing forward into this, and now I've created anarchy, and I don't know what to do. I source back through my memory. Anarchy? I'm just saying this is random.
No, but I really like your word. Why do you think it's anarchy? Why do you think it's chaos?
Because I've disrupted whatever the mini culture is.
Right, but disruption doesn't mean that, and it's beautiful because think chaos theory, right? Chaos theory is all about, like, on the surface it looks crazy. You've just changed something drastically, so it looks like a flurry of action or a flurry of energy. Right? Just like a train station from a distance might look like chaos, but everything in that is moving in a direction that is directed. So in the train station, let's say there's 10,000 people in that train station. They're all going to specific places, but from the outside, it just looks like mayhem and craziness. You've created disruption, but there is absolute definition and focal points within it.
So then when I'm on the front edge of that, and I'm there on the basis of my experience, talent, and training. Okay. And when that stalls, right, boom. And the only word, it's like epiphany. We've talked about epiphany is the No, it's a grand realization. This is a bad definition, but a grand realization that I haven't summoned. It's appeared in my awareness, right? So that's where my greatest leap forwards come, is when I've pushed myself to the point where I do not have the resources currently to
Okay.
achieve, and then mentally or intellectually or spiritually, metaphysically, mystically, however, whatever that
Okay.
term is, then it's dropped into me,
Okay.
and boom, I have it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, the sudden and unexpected.
Oh, those are beautiful. Because we go from the knowing to the true knowing, right? So it's like, from the intellectual standpoint, I know these things, but it's not clicking. There's that little piece, that little key that needs to be turned to open it all up. And that sudden change, that epiphany, it's funny, I always looked at epiphany as like an accumulation of realizations all hitting you at once that are so profound, it shakes your world forever, and never, ever will you go back. That's kind of what I think of an epiphany as. But I really like that you refer to it as like that download, the drop-in of information that is a knowing in your cells. It's a knowing in your being. And all of a sudden you have what you need. But the stupid thing is, you always had what you needed. This is the part that I think so many of us, and when I say so many, I mean almost every single person on the planet, struggles with until they get it. And even when you get it, you still sit in a reality that often pulls you back into the primitive mind, right? Into like normal thinking instead of being. So when you talk about those downloads and when these things come to you and that it's all within you, we put up all these doors. And I had an insane experience when I had a fever back in December, which is really funny because I don't get sick, and this wasn't actually a sick. It was, yeah. Anyways, I got a bladder infection or something like that, kidney infection, and so I had a crazy fever. And in the midst of this fever, I had the most incredible epiphany. So I'm in a fever state, and I'm not eating, and I'm really kind of in and out of like theta meditative kind of mental positioning. And I have this kind of thought drop in about you block your own way and how the thoughts are blocking the way. And I went, okay. So I literally kind of tested something at that time. I was thinking, and you all of a sudden you see everything, all opportunities, all options, all ways cleared. And then you have this thought, and it literally, like, it's like putting a screen in front of your face. And maybe your screen might be like this, so you still get some, but you still have barriers. Or you could stick another one with another thought, and literally they're just compounded, and then you can't see what's right in front of you and what's always, always been there for you. It's not so much, I'm starting to believe that it's not so much these downloads, it's the opening up. The more we open up, the more we actually see what's always been here. We just haven't seen it.
Rendezvous with ourselves, right?
Yes. And when I say ourselves, I'm referring not so much to this physical me, right? But I'm referring more to like, what is us, this energy, this space, this infinite knowledge that is contained within every part of life, existence, this planet, this universe. It's all here. And we have access to it any given time. We just have not learned how to access it because we literally put up our own fronts.
So is this true fate then? You know, these
no, because we have choice what we do with this information.
Yes.
But no, I don't think it's fate. We have choice. That's what throws wrenches in stuff. I have a choice every single second, and so do you.
But isn't that quantum fate?
I think that
like
there's
the old broken down cause and effect, that you get the least possible result out of cause and effect, and it's just going to be miserable, and that's fate. Okay. But I'm talking about this push to rendezvous, to push to a greater realization, a greater understanding, a greater awareness, where we realize when we get there, we've always been here.
Right.
Is that true fate?
I think of it like a pull, because I really do believe we're like like magnets being drawn to stuff all the time,
Right.
or stuff is being drawn to us, either way. But it's funny because you and I have talked about the possibilities of multi dimensions and how things play out. And I really have experienced at different points where I realize there is no time and space. We are like, when we're in our highest selves, when you go into these moments, when you experience these, there is no time and space. It's very, I don't even want to say overwhelming, because it's not in that moment, but it is when you try and remember back to it, or when you try and rationalize it in conscious, like in a normal conscious state. In my beta, I don't function well in that realm, because it's not my normal, and it's not, I haven't experienced it enough to just recognize it as what it is and jump through whatever tethers me to this existence.
Hmm. So then what do we, how can we initiate this, this streaming epiphany?
Okay. Um, you and I have talked about meditation like a million times. I talk about meditation all the time
Hmm.
because it is there's keys into us. Okay. So I do believe we have access to great information when we are willing to be open to it. And the best ways to be open to it are to release things that were holding us anchored in this existence. Meditation allows you to release a lot of stuff. Emotional release allows you to release a lot of anchors. Breath allows you to release and switch up nervous systems, which allow more information to flow and energy to flow better. So there's definitely keys we can use to alleviate some of the blockage, right? Or some of the flow of energy. Meditation, I will never, ever stop saying how important meditation is for every single person on this planet. It is first and foremost part of your natural state of being. Always think of, if we think of just brain frequencies, you and I are in beta right now. So I'm just going to go through the brain frequencies really, really quick. And these are quick little summations, generalizations, okay? So we go from delta, which is sleeping, to theta, which is programming, but it's that in between consciousness and actually it's more your subconscious. Then you go into alpha, and that's that in between your consciousness and subconscious. So when you're driving to work and it feels like 5 seconds later and you're like, wow, I don't even remember driving here. That's you more in alpha state than in a beta state, which is really aware. And there's multiple levels to beta. There's 3. And then you move into the gamma state. And gamma is a very, very, very active brain frequency. You can reach this through meditation. You can, but you can also reach this through psychedelics. Some people use those to have these very big transformative experiences in their life, or to work through traumas, because these different brain frequencies allow us to do different things, to unlock and to let go and to release the stuff that we've experienced, to really connect with what we are. Our experiences we have this mixed up preconceived idea that your experiences are you. Your experiences are here to teach you and give you depth. They're not here to make you like, you're not in that experience. You're not, I'm a mother. I'm an author. I'm a podcaster. I'm a coach. I like to sing. None of these things are exactly who I am. They're expressions. They're expressions that I am allowed to express the true self through. Make sense?
It does. It's the you refer to it as that we're not our experiences, and
No, they
our
deepen
our
us.
memories our memories are not our thoughts, but our thoughts, when we don't think,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't examine our life, and we don't cast forward, when I don't, let's say it that way. I don't
Okay.
want to cast this on other people, because maybe other people's minds work different. Maybe my mind only works my way for me. Right? When I don't think, and
Yep.
when I don't cast my mind forward,
Yep.
right? Um, then those functions still exist. So my mind is so powerful, and it wants to use these tools, that it'll begin to stuff memories into these thought processes. And that's when people start, they're finding patterns in their memories that have, it's just because they're not moving forward. They're literally intellectual couch potatoes.
Okay, so I have let's shift the paradigm here just for a sec.
Certainly.
What if I were to tell you that all your thoughts derive from emotions? So one emotional reaction, right? Because we talked about original meanings and how we attach emotions to these things, and then we go through life in cascading events. But
I would agree that certain thoughts are based on emotion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I have an emotional feeling, response to something, or reaction to something, I can have 1,000 thoughts around that. And I can run down the craziest rabbit holes with those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have repeating thoughts, when we have negative or positive, right, I could be absolutely, and I don't want to say focused, but we could become hyper focused in something that is functioning well for us or not. But when you release that emotions are chemical reactions, and really they're only here for a few moments and then they pass. But thoughts don't allow that to happen when you're caught up in an emotion. So if I'm thinking I'm angry at something, then I have another thought that again perpetuates that chemical reaction and floods the body with that emotion, that chemical response. And then I have another thought around that, and then again and again.
I agree. There's a mind and there's thoughts that come
right.
from your physiology. That's somatic. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we've never got to the bottom of that other conversation.
Okay.
About mind, right? And where does mind exist? I purport and I submit that there are original, brand new thoughts and ideas that come to us that transcend our reactionary thought that's based on our emotion.
Okay.
And our emotions are based on our past experiences too, right?
Yes.
So it's all that kind of, I guess this would be the primitive mind. The primitive mind is using your past to interpret the future. Maybe.
Yes, it does. 100% it does.
So, and that's its gift to us. It allows us to run, not knowing language, barely being able to stay in a community and hunt and to gather. And our mind, it would flow forward in that. Right. Then we created cities and books and languages and
we have evolved
and keeping track of our history, and that jams us. But I'm talking about the fresh ideas.
I know.
Don't originate with us.
Okay, so when you're talking about that, again, this is why I think meditation, and I think brain frequencies, because when you're thinking like that, you're in creative mode. Creative mode doesn't typically tend to come from. Creative mode is frontal cortex, and it depends on what state you're in. Will allow this to be more active, will allow this to be really juices flowing, will allow those original thoughts to come through.
Oh, just one second. I wanted to say goodbye to the TVU audience, and we'll catch up with them next week, but we'll continue our
I am
our
Brandi Taylor, founder of Fear It Goes, and I have one question for you today. What's it worth to save that relationship with your spouse? What's it worth to you to have the incredible opportunities with your staff? What's it worth to you to grow your business from almost failure to absolute success? What's it worth for you to find the love in your life? What is it worth to you to make the investment in yourself? Do you stand for you today, or do you take the back seat? That's the question. What's it worth? At feargoes.com/align now method.